Lincoln, and I'm the co-chair of the South Carolina Food Policy Council, along with Carrie Draper. Welcome to the second general membership meeting of our council. We would love it if you could go ahead and enter your name into the chat, as well as the organization that you represent, so that we can all see who's here today. So we recently put out a call for new board members and got a great response, but we only had a few seats to fill, and I want to extend a warm welcome to our newest board members. I will name them in alphabetical order, starting with Michael Brown from Roots of Life and Sustaining Way, Guillermo Espinoza from the Central Midlands Council of Governments and Alianza Latina of the Midlands, Ken Harvin from the South Carolina Association of Community Economic Development, Matt Neese from Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, Nico Pickett from the PIC 42 Foundation, and Kyle Player with the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. So each of these folks bring valuable experiences, perspectives, and skill sets to our board, and we are really looking forward to working with them. So once again, welcome to you all. So we are going to start in on our quarterly updates now, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Zach Kernstadt.
Hi, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Zach Kernstadt, and I provide staff support along with my colleague Ashley Page Bookhart to the State Food Policy Council, as well as serve as a program associate with the University of South Carolina SNAP Ed team. So I just had a couple quick updates for everybody. First off, you may have noticed if you are on our mailing list that quarterly newsletters have shown up in your inbox a couple times so far. And that is going to continue. They're going to go out the month before our quarterly meeting. So you should have received one in the beginning of last month. We're going to send them out individually to everyone on our membership list, but you should also feel free to distribute them widely. You know, they're for everyone. And you can also find them posted up on our website, which I will put a link to in the chat box after I'm done talking here. If you have any information that you'd like included in the newsletter, especially if you have any events that you'd like to promote, you know, food system related events, feel free to reach out to us via email. And again, that email I will also put in the chat box. The other update that I had for everyone, and this is one that we're really excited about, is an update on our SNAP Ed Local Food Policy Council grant awardees. We at the South Carolina Food Policy Council are really excited to be able to provide grant funding in collaboration with the University of South Carolina SNAP Ed program to 8 communities in South Carolina to either form food policy councils or to expand existing food policy councils' capacity to identify and advance policy systems and environmental change strategies for improving healthy food access and ensuring food equity. So the communities that we are working with on this grant are community members of Oconee County, and then Orangeburg, Calhoun, and Bamberg counties have a council that's under development. Florence County, Greenville County, Greenwood County, Marion County, and then Lexington County, as well as York County. So we held our first monthly learning collaborative virtual meeting. That was on April 9th, and that was really an introduction, kind of an orientation, just to outline expectations and for everybody to kind of meet each other and establish a space for collaboration and troubleshooting, sharing of best practices, things of that nature. We're going to have subsequent learning collaborative meetings on a monthly basis, and those are going to focus on a variety of best practices, as well as topics that would be or are pertinent to starting and sustaining food councils. For example, our next learning collaborative meeting is going to take place next week, actually, and that's going to focus on planning and conducting community food assessments, which will help councils examine a range of food-related issues in order to inform and build support for practical actions to enhance their local food systems. And so we'll continue to provide updates moving forward, but we just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. And again, we're just really excited to and feel really fortunate to have the opportunity to work with these communities, and a special hello to some of you folks I see are on the call with us today. And so that's all I had as far as updates. I'm going to turn it over to Nikki for some additional updates.
All right, thanks, Zach. Those of you all that work with me know I rarely share my screen. I also just scratched my eyeball today, so I'm definitely not sharing my one-eyed screen. Thank you all for being here. Really excited to share some updates about the broader organization and the work of the Food Policy Council. As some of you all know, I am the facilitator for the South Carolina Food Hub Network, which has created a network to connect food hubs and their individual activities. So very specific to Food Hub, increasing their capacity, collaboration, and market opportunities. And after having such great success with that network, creating essentially a community of practice, we had discussions with the Department of Ag about what does this look like for broader food systems. And after having to go weathering the storms of COVID and going through a season of really all hands on deck, trying to understand federal programming, trying to understand opportunities and challenges around local food, it became clear that there was a need that went far beyond just local food hubs. And really there was a need to have broader state level food system focused network building. And so we have been working with the Department of Ag, Eat Smart, Move More, the South Carolina Food Policy Council, to come together around this idea of creating a statewide local food network. And so some of you are familiar with organizations that bring together folks through associations or relevant industry topics to help people understand challenges, opportunities, who's doing what, and occasionally work together to do multi-agency funding applications. And so we are currently working with the Department of Ag to submit an application for USDA Regional Food Systems Planning Grant that would essentially provide 3 years of funding support to create a state level food system network for South Carolina. It would be managed by the South Carolina Food Policy Council from a governing perspective. It would be under the fiscal agency of Eat Smart, Move More, and SCDA would be providing our match funding so that we qualify for this grant. And so essentially you all as members would have a governing role in the activities and the needs of this statewide local food network to help just essentially bridge some of these gaps, increase communication, increase collaboration. And we're leveraging some really strong models from groups like Farm to Institution New England that have really seen incredible success with bringing folks together around these topics. So just excited to share that we're trying to formalize this. This would create a state level local food systems director. It would create someone whose focus was on kind of aggregating local foods data and statistics, which is very helpful in us understanding the challenges and opportunities in that food system. So I'm happy to talk about this more. I am in conversations with several folks to try and get interim funding between now and the potential USDA funding, as well as talking with the folks at CFSA and some of our representatives to determine if this can be something that has a permanent appropriation line item so that there is support for local foods in the long-term budget process. So that's all I've got for you on that. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. You're welcome to email me directly. I do have a one-pager. That's all. Thanks, Zach. And Zach, I'm having trouble pulling up the agenda to see who I'm supposed to introduce next.
Yeah, let's take a look. So actually, now we would like to open up the floor to any of our members that might have updates or announcements that they'd like to share. And also feel free to type any announcements you have in the chat if that would be easier.
Hi, everyone. Hey.
Hey, Florence.
Hey. How are you? I am stuck at the 1890 office trying to get a grant ready for going out, so I'm sorry.
Zach, I might have missed, again, I was a couple minutes late, so I don't know if I missed introductions from the new board members, but welcome everyone. Very excited to have you involved. And did we all kind of introduce existing ones too, or not?
We did not.
We did not. Well.
Go for it. Let's do it.
I'm Brian Wheat, and I'm a member of the board of the South Carolina Food Policy Council. I thought I'd kick off the announcements with something exciting. I'll let you know I'm with SBDC out of Orangeburg, and also I'm an adjunct at Trident Technical College teaching Intro to Sustainable Agriculture, and I'm a farmer as well. But we just had a great meeting yesterday about Ag and Art Tour for the Charleston County region. And so we will be doing that in June. So that's exciting information. I just thought I'd kind of get the gears turning here with a little bit of conversation. So have that to look forward to. And that's a statewide event linking agriculture and art of various sorts that has been going on for a number of years now. And this will be the first year that Charleston County is offering that. We have 11/12 farms that are involved. And so, very much excited about that. And though it seems to be a bit of a stretch, I'm here to represent agriculture in terms of the food system. And so I think it's important to note when these kind of things are going on as it relates to food access and food supply.
Thank you, Brian. We should go ahead and then back up a little bit and have the other existing Food Policy Council members introduce themselves as well. And Brian, I'm so excited to hear that about Charleston. I know people love the Art and Ag program, so that's really exciting. And I can only imagine what awesomeness will come out of Charleston. So that'll be cool to see. Carrie, would you mind introducing yourself and then passing it to the next board member?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carrie Draper with the School of Public Health at the University of South Carolina. I'm a little under the weather today, so sorry I won't be as actively involved in today's discussion, but thanks everyone for being with us today. And I think Florence, if you want to introduce yourself. And
Sure.
On, and I don't think Gregory's on today.
Okay.
He was.
So, yeah, I'm Florence Anoro. I am a professor at South Carolina State University, Department of Agriculture. I'm sorry, Department of is coming. I guess it's coming, not yet. Department of Biological and Physical Sciences. I'm a plant and environmental science by training, but I'm also currently joining 1890 as their research scientist and directing the emerging crops and everything sustainable. And we recently acquired a 200-acre land in a small town called Ola. And so we're excited to do a lot of exciting things there. So hopefully there will be a great collaboration between what we're doing, and the Ola Farm in 1890 in general. So that's my introduction. I will pass it on to Nikki.
Thank you, Florence. You all just heard from me, and I can save it till the end, but I just looked at the agenda and realized I was supposed to talk about the Racial Equity Challenge and the mapping project. So Zach, you want me to do that now, or you want me to circle back around?
Oh, go for it. Go for
Okay.
it.
Well, you guys already heard from me, but I'm going to share my screen if I'm allowed. So some of the other activities of the Food Policy Council that are taking place right now, if you have not been to the Food Policy Council website, I highly recommend it. So if you're on the Food Policy Council website, you guys can see a lot of different activities here. And one of those key areas is initiatives. So if you go to the South Carolina Local Food System Roadmap, it's going to pull up a story map that explains this project. Now, please note, we do have a contractor currently updating this. So you're going to see in the next week a press release that announces this, as well as our farmer resource guide. And this entire map will be a little easier to navigate. So right now you can get a general picture. This essentially provides lots of data layers that help map where the infrastructure, resources, and agriculture is taking place within our state. You can zoom this in onto the county level. So if you're looking for data to write a grant or to understand the nature of the food system in your area, this provides you an opportunity to kind of zoom in on a deeper level. And there is also an opportunity to bring up this data in the bottom, and you can download this content as an individual directory as well. We are working with the Department of Ag and one of their contractors, so that if you wanted to pull data sets or you wanted to pull shape files for your own GIS use, that would be something that would be readily available as a resource. Additionally, as noted, this was paired with a farmer resource directory. And the idea behind this is that we wanted this same information expanded upon and targeted for farmers. So providing this content so that farmers are more readily able to access this information. So it's broken down by category. You can drop down and navigate. At the top of each of these, there's also additional documents, publications, and resources that have been collected. All of these projects, both the mapping project as well as this resource guide, were highly collaborative. So you can see some of the shout outs here. Key partners were Low Country Local First, Department of Ag, and the Rural Resource Coalition. The statewide mapping project was highly collaborative. And as you can see on the Our Story component of this, there's a shout out to all of our partners here. So again, a lot of folks have contributed to this, including some of you all on the call. DHEC contributed data, et cetera. So these are two resources that are out there for you. And again, this is available. You can follow the links on the Food Policy Council website as a tool for you. And if you are looking at the map and you don't see something that you think should be there, there is an email address on these websites where you can share that information and it can be added to the map. So that's the mapping piece. And then the second piece is the 21-day Racial Equity Habit Building Challenge. And we are wrapping that up. It's something that we did as a board with the Food Policy Council. We went through this 21-day Racial Equity Challenge and hosted weekly discussion calls. And the nature of this challenge is that you get an email prompt every day for 21 days that comes with activities. And these are really digging deep. It is an incredibly robust amount of resources. So you navigate individual discussion elements. There are videos, PDFs, study guides, questions for reflection, and their additional resources take you even deeper. So it's every day for 21 days, but they give you a year's worth of resources. So a great tool for you all if your organization is looking for a place to start on digging into addressing racial inequities or understanding and evaluating your own organizational structure and how you can actively take a role in addressing racism. This is a really great tool and a personal tool as well for kind of walking through that. And again, you can see here a lot of conversation at the intersection of food, because we know food and race has an incredible connection here. Walking through slavery and servitude, understanding and confronting whiteness, white privilege, white supremacy, really digging in here, talking about systems change, and talking about healing politics. There's a lot of really great policy tools in here, talking about examples of how other communities have created plans for addressing racial inequities in certain elements of their food system. So again, we'll be sharing some of these as we move forward in our newsletters. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to move through. And as we all talk about in the Food Policy Council, we know this is a continuum. So we as a council are passionate about making sure each of us as individuals and all of us as a board are trying to move further and further down this continuum and becoming more and more aware of our own role in this food system for South Carolina. So those are all my updates. I think I'm finally back on the agenda. Are there any other board members I need to hand it over for introduction?
Well, let's, thanks, Nikki. Yeah, let's go ahead and pass it on to Phil. Phil is going to introduce himself. He's a board member, but then he also has a brief policy update for us as well that we're going to go ahead and hit as well.
Yeah, thanks for working with me, y'all. My name is Phil Ford. I am a board member. I use he and him pronouns, and I am a consultant for Eat Smart, Move More South Carolina. And I'm actually up at the State House today, and we're doing budget work and a couple of big hearings. So I appreciate you letting me give a quick update with my introduction. But there are a couple of bills that will address school lunches in the state of South Carolina. The first being H 3319, that is Representative John King bill from York County. This bill, students that receive or that are eligible to receive free or reduced lunch must be offered the same lunches as those who aren't eligible. This will also make sure that schools do not penalize children if they do have school lunch debt. You'll see in differing school districts around the state that recess may be taken away, walking at graduation may be taken away. In 2013 or 2014, when we had the government shutdown, we saw military families have children have their recess and so forth taken away. So we want to make sure that children are not affected by this. So the current status of this bill, it unanimously passed the House, which we are grateful for, 113-0. A couple of weeks ago, it made crossover. So it is now sitting in the Senate. So we're asking folks to contact Senator Greg Hembree's office for him to schedule a subcommittee hearing on this bill. We've had a lot of folks reach out, and there's also an action on the Eat Smart Move More website. You can visit that at esmmsc.org, and you can send an email to your senator. The next bill that we have been working on with Representative Wendy Brawley. 2 weeks ago, we testified in favor of H 3006, which will prevent school districts from using debt collection agencies to collect school lunch debts. Oftentimes, when debt collectors are engaged by school districts, additional fees, interest, cause the initial debt of, say, $50 reach almost $90 within a short period of time. So we want to make sure that families, especially during such an uncertain time for folks who may have been affected with job loss or wage loss due to COVID-19, that they're not penalized any further. So that bill passed out of Education Subcommittee, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, unanimously 5-0. And then last week out of the Education Committee, 16-0. And we will be pushing that on the House this week for second reading and hopefully third reading, maybe Thursday. We do not have an action for that one yet, as our priority is H 3319 to see if we can get this done this year. It'll be tight, but with your help, reaching out to Senator Hembry and your senators, we can maybe affect that bill. But I don't know if anybody has any questions, but you can visit Eat Smart Move More, sc.org, to check our legislative watch list as well. And if there are things that we're not on this watch list that you think we should be paying attention to, please send those along too.
Any questions for Phil? All right. Well, thank you, Phil. We appreciate that update. And I believe Gregory is our final board member that, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Gregory.
Sure. Thank you, Zach. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gregory Sprouse with Central Midlands Council of Governments, and I work in our Community and Economic Development and Local Government Planning Department. And we are a regional planning agency that serves the 4 counties around Columbia, which is Richland, Lexington, Newberry, and Fairfield. And just following up from what Brian was mentioning, we're very excited this year because Newberry and Fairfield counties have long been participants in the Ag and Art Tour, but 3 years ago, Richland County got involved and has developed a really good program, and we're really excited about what they're going to be doing this year. And then also, it's my understanding that Lexington County is involved. So we're very proud of the fact that all 4 of our Central Midlands counties are participating in the Ag and Art Tour this year. And also just want to say that we're very excited about the announcement Zach made regarding the new food policy councils that are under development, because one of the ones that was awarded is for the West Columbia and Casey areas. So that's going to correspond really nicely with all the great work that the City of Columbia Food Policy Council is doing. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to be able to support all this great work going on in the Midlands region.
Thanks so much. I think moving on, it's looking like if we want to stay on track time-wise, we are going to continue on, and perhaps I'll leave it up to the rest of the board as far as I know we have we kind of announced our new board members, but they didn't get a chance to introduce themselves. Do we want to do that right now, or do we want to save that for next time?
Can we also let Florence introduce herself? She was on, and I don't think she's had a chance to do that yet. One of our existing board members. Or did I miss that because my internet was out?
I think you might have missed that one when you dipped out for a second.
I'm sorry, y'all. So sorry about that.
Florence, if you have anything else to say, you're more than welcome. But yeah, she did introduce herself.
I think Florence have a colleague here. I don't know whether you all can hear me. I sent an email out, Lamindrame. Am I observing or a member? Can somebody hear me?
What was the question?
I said, the name is Lamindrame. I'm on the line from South Carolina State University 1890 Research and Extension in our PAC area. I'm interested in the policy perspective that you are talking about. I made an overture and I got some responses back, and I'm saying whether I am on the list or that will be for another day.
I can check to see if you're on our list. Have you signed up for the general membership of the council? If not, I will, well, either way, I will put a link into the chat box that will just lead you to our website, and it will take a couple minutes to just fill out your name and contact info, and then you will officially be on the list if you are not already.
Yes, sir. No problem. Just, okay, no worries. Thank you. Great conversation.
Well, all right. I guess we'll go ahead and move forward here. I'm going to ask my colleague Ashley, if you would be willing to provide an introduction for our next speaker, who's done some great work for us on food insecurity.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce a very talented MPH master's level student at my alma mater and place of employment at University of South Carolina. She's been working closely with Dr. Melinda Merrill, who I also see is on the call with USC's Rural and Minority Health Center. And so Allyson will talk a little bit further about some data that they've been working on that talks about food insecurity, as well as I think something a lot of us have been interested in, knowing we've seen so many grocery store closures across the state. So they've also done some great data tracking that since 2016. And so all of this has kind of been pulled for Sisters of Charity's 2020 poverty report that I'm sure she'll speak about a little bit later in her presentation as well. But Allyson, thank you so very much for joining us today. And I will say Allyson graduates, I believe it's next week, and she is on the job hunt. So hopefully, Allyson, you may make some connections on this call today. And thank you so much for presenting for us today.
Thank you, Ashley. Let me go ahead and share my screen. See it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Allyson Malbouf, and today I will be discussing how grocery store locations impact food insecurity. So first, I would just like to thank the Sisters of Charity Foundation, Dr. Melinda Merrill for all of her support throughout this project, and Carrie Draper, Ashley Page, and Zachary Hernstadt for having the opportunity to collaborate and speak at this meeting today. So first, at a very basic level, authors have described poverty as having too few resources or capabilities to participate fully in a society, or as a lack of necessities. We may also think about poverty in terms of deprivation of money, time, or capital. Within the US, multiple industries, including academia, have a keen interest in the study of poverty, making it a truly cross-disciplinary endeavor to include areas of focus in sociology, economics, marketing, political science, public health. However, much of that work has been done in silos. And as we'll discuss today, addressing poverty must become truly an interdisciplinary task to make efforts to mitigate and eradicate to be successful. So specifically, this chart shows the trend in the number of South Carolinians defined as in need by standard. It is pretty clear that the overall poverty has decreased since the 1960s, with some upward bumps in 1990 and 2010 due to periods of economic recession throughout the country. But overall, no movement for the past 40 years, despite multiple poverty changes throughout this time period. Additionally, we know that COVID-19 has also had a negative impact on poverty too in the last year. So specifically, like Ashley said, for the South Carolina Poverty Brief that we completed in December of 2020, we looked at the 6 public health frameworks to identify root causes of inequality throughout South Carolina. So as we know that these factors contribute to poverty and overall health outcomes, this report shed light on food insecurity and access to healthy food options being a barrier for many people throughout our state. Due to this, I was particularly interested in taking a deeper dive at food insecurity. So the relationship between food insecurity and people's experience with poverty is critically important, as food is a necessary element for human survival. And yet families in the US still struggle every day with a lack of access to food and hunger, including over 600,000 South Carolinians. According to the US Department of Agriculture, food insecurity is an economic condition defined by a lack of access to enough food to constantly support a household's nutrition needs. So as of 2019, the South Carolina food insecurity rate was 10.8. This percentage of population is based on if a person experienced food insecurity at some point throughout the year. The projected rate for 2020 is 12.5 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's only worsening in 2021. So some physical barriers to food access in South Carolina have worsened over the past several years due to closures of grocery stores across the state, many in communities where residents regularly experience poverty. So for the Sisters of Charity project, an analysis was completed, and there's 812 identified grocery stores in 105 grocery store closures since 2016. More closures were in rural areas, but shockingly, Richland County had the highest number of grocery store closures at 12 stores closing since 2016. This map is also in the report, which I'm sure most of you have already seen. So due to this section of this report, it intrigued me to focus on grocery store availability throughout the state to see if more grocery stores have opened in low access areas since 2016. So for my research, I analyzed all available grocery stores in South Carolina as of December 2020. I used a data set called Data Axle Reference Solutions, which is offered through the Richland Library databases to students at no cost. I excluded all gas stations and convenience stores because I wanted to only examine grocery stores that offered an assortment of healthy food options for families. So there is a total of 896 available grocery stores throughout the state as of December 2020. So here is a map of all the available grocery stores in South Carolina. As you can see, it's showing large clusters in metro areas and many rural areas with no grocery stores. After finalizing this data set, it made me aware that there are still many areas throughout our state that don't have enough access to fresh foods. So I teamed up with South Carolina Food Policy Council to share my data with them and wanted to make this data available to researchers and policymakers throughout the state to advocate for food insecurity. So one data set that I created looks at the racial and ethnic composition, grocery store data, and food insecurity data. The full data set includes every county and state level data, but I wanted to show you an example of what the data set looked like. So here's Richland County. So as you can see, moving from left to right, I started with the percent populations for children and for the elderly, looked at racial demographics for every county. And then I also wanted to include median income. And the closed grocery stores since 2016, that is the data that is also available in the poverty brief. The total grocery stores available as of 2020, that was my research. And I also wanted to add the rank for the grocery store closures, because like I said, Richland County was the highest with 12 grocery stores. So I have a rank for all the counties. And then I added in Feeding America data for overall food insecurity and children food insecurity from 2018 to the 2020 projected, which they have available also on their website right now. So with these data sets, researchers and policymakers can look at the gaps where potential grocery stores can be built for communities to improve access to healthy food options. Additionally, this data set will shed on the food insecurity issues for adults and children throughout the state and help advocate for policy changes. My hope is that this data will help researchers and policymakers to show that food insecurity is a major issue across the state and more healthy food options need to be available to South Carolinians. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Allyson. Any questions for Allyson before we move on?
Allyson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Steve Slice, Baltimore School of Business Economics Department. Did you factor in possibly the farmers markets as far as providing some fresh food?
So for this data set specifically, I only looked at grocery stores, but that would be really interesting to go back in to add in farmers markets. But specifically for this data, I just looked at available grocery stores.
Yeah. Well, it's good work. I wondered about the farmers markets. You know, I noticed one county, I couldn't quite figure out which one it was. It looked like it's either Barnwell or Allendale. I think he had two grocery stores in the whole county. That's pretty bad. But then I got to thinking they probably have a lot of farmers markets to maybe offset it. But that's not an excuse. They still need to have more grocery stores.
I know, I'm from Hampton County, which is neighboring to those two counties. No, the farmers markets are not active.
And if I may add, I think they are not active, that is true, but I think they try to circumvent it with some of the farmers doing roadsides, where they just have it on the side of their farm, you know, rather than, you know, trying to get somewhere else. You know, I think if you can examine what influence the roadside may have, that might provide your research a little bit more perspective.
Allyson, great work. Congratulations on upcoming graduation as well. I'm Ken Harvin, new board member. I serve for South Carolina Association for Community Economic Development as their Rule Program Associate. But I had a question because you look a lot of quantitative data there. Did you explore, did you have time to explore the reasons for the closing more on a qualitative analysis?
I did not, unfortunately, but if I had more time, I definitely wanted to go, you know, and talk to community members about that. This was for my practice-based experience, so it was only one semester. But I guess if I wasn't graduating, I would have definitely wanted to take a qualitative look at it as well. But maybe in future research, we can do that. So thank you.
Good.
Looks like Nico has a question.
Yes. Hey, Allyson, terrific work, by the way, just terrific. I'm in Marion County, and I do have I wanted to find out when you looked at the grocery store closing, because we've had closings here, but then it'll open up with another store. Is that considered a closing and an opening? That's my question one. And then my question two is, could we get access to your deck? I mean, it was fabulous.
Thank you. So yes, I think we all know that the bylaws were going bankrupt and some of them were reopening as different names. So
Right.
actually for my data set, I have a column that is considered open, and then I have another one that's in transition, because I know that those bylaws will be closing, but some of them will be reopening, but that's still considered a disruption in, you know, food availability to community members. So I did take that into consideration as well. And your second question is, yes, you can email me or anybody from the Food Policy Council after this, and we can connect about you getting the data.
Awesome. Thank you.
These are great questions and great conversation. And I really appreciate it. I think at this point, we're going to go ahead and move on, though. And again, a special thanks to Allyson for just being such a great collaborator. We really appreciate it. And I also know that we're really appreciative of the opportunity to share some of your data and research with the local food policy councils that are starting up around the state. So to answer your question, Miko, yes, definitely we will be making sure that that all the participants in the grant program, all those participant communities have access to that data for sure. So I am going to go ahead and move on. We had a few policy and advocacy updates that we wanted to be sure to touch on. And I know we had to jump around a little bit, so thanks to Phil for providing us with that update on what's happening with the school lunch legislation. We have a couple other folks that we're really happy to have with us today. First off, I want to introduce Bridget Owens. She is going to talk to us about some SNAP legislation and updates just as far as SNAP is concerned. And she is with the South Carolina Appleseed Legal Justice Center. So I'll turn it over to you, Bridget.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I was sweating that I was going to have to go after Allyson. That is a tough act to follow. Congratulations, I echo, on your upcoming graduation. It's clear you're a rising star. There are a number of SNAP updates that I would love to share. I know that we don't have a ton of time, so I will provide some bullet points and encourage folks to follow up with me if there's anything that we'd like to delve into further. I'd be remiss to not point out that I am actually transitioning out of Appleseed in May, and so my very capable, enthusiastic, excited replacement is here with us today. Her name is Sarah Sirks, and there she is, waving. So Sarah will be taking over the public benefits and anti-hunger advocacy with South Carolina Appleseed. It seems that I will be staying in the SNAP space, so I will be a continued resource going further, and look forward to continuing to work with you from afar. But what you tuned in for, so the SNAP and TANF drug felon ban, I know, is a priority for folks across the state. This is a piece of federal legislation that says that an individual with a drug felony on their criminal record is not eligible for SNAP or TANF benefits. States are allowed to opt out of this ban or modify it. South Carolina is the only state with the full ban still in effect. There was state level legislation to get rid of the ban this year, but it did not cross over. It did not make the crossover this year. There's also a federal level advocacy effort to get rid of that root legislation in its entirety that has been plaguing states and having this inequitable impact on folks since 1996. So there's a dual advocacy strategy, state and federal, to get rid of that bad legislation for South Carolinians. And I know that this is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. So please reach out to Appleseed for further conversation on that topic. SNAP alert, I have pollen on the brain. Allergy allotments, SNAP emergency allotments have been ongoing through the pandemic. These emergency allotments boost each SNAP household up to the max SNAP allotment for the household size. And these have been ongoing throughout the pandemic. So if you are in touch with a SNAP household that has not been getting that max benefit, and I can share out a chart of what that benefit looks like per household size, that's a problem, and they should be able to get bumped up to that max benefit and retroactive benefits to make up for that mistake, because everybody should have been getting the max throughout the pandemic. The thing that has changed recently is that USDA had initially interpreted this to say everybody gets bumped up to the max, period. And that leaves out about a third of South Carolina households who are already getting the max. So these are South Carolina's poorest families on SNAP that didn't get any additional food assistance when the higher income families did get a bump. So USDA has now said that every SNAP household is getting an emergency allotment of at least $95. So that bump up for the families already at the max or close to the max should have happened April 20th and 21st, that those should have gone out. So that is just something to flag that we're going to be putting together a one-pager about, because that's That's new from USDA. Pandemic EBT is the benefit for school-aged kids across South Carolina. I don't know if we have anybody from DSS or DOE on the phone. Pandemic EBT is a hot mess. It is calculated per child per day that they are marked virtually present in school. And there were major problems with the data that was going from the individual schools to DOE, to DSS, to the EBT card vendor in Texas. So some families have not gotten their cards, and some families got the wrong amount. This is a hot mess. This is an ongoing hairball that we're trying to untangle. But if there's anything, insight you would like to lend or questions that you have, please reach out. Sarah, if at some point I could get you to put your email in the chat box so that folks do have that Appleseed contact, that would be great for all of these questions. I think the most pressing thing for this group, the last bullet point that I'll share, is that we had a very productive meeting with the regional staff from USDA in Atlanta last week. And it was really interesting because we did like a half-hour lightning round of sharing with USDA out of Atlanta, South Carolina DSS, and then I know several of you also joined us for this half-hour adventure. I think that we made a lot of progress in getting DSS to state on the record that they're going to be a little bit more helpful in some of the issues that I know that you guys care about. So looking at online EBT for smaller retailers, and then also making EBT a more accessible option for farmers markets and smaller retailers across the board. So that was something that the regional office expressed support for. And I know in so many of these questions about the sustainability of grocery stores, I think that SNAP can play a really important part in that conversation, and that increasing folks' access to food benefits, of course, is going to be a good thing for their health as well. So I think that going forward, this is a great opportunity for all kinds of different partnerships. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share those updates. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Bridget, and welcome, Sarah. We have one additional update in the policy and advocacy realm. Matt, who is a new board member, so congratulations on that, but also works with or for the Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, and has some agriculture updates for us. So I'll turn it over to Matt.
Right on. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, my name is Matt Neese. I'm with Carolina Farm Stewardship Association. I'm the South Carolina Policy Coordinator. So for those who aren't aware, we're a two-state organization, covers small and mid-sized farmers on both North and South Carolina, but I exclusively focus on South Carolina policy. New board member, so I'm super stoked to be involved and happy to be here. So I'm going to give us a fairly fast, relevant agriculture policy update. I'm going to break it down for relevant federal and then relevant state updates, just because there's some exciting stuff happening at the federal level, and I would be remiss to not mention it. There's a lot of COVID relief money still floating around at the federal and the state level. And at the federal level, it looks like, for those who aren't aware, there's a great program called FML-FPP. It's the Farmers Market Local Food Promotion Program. There's going to be $47 million expected to be announced very soon going to that, with a 10% cost share. Typically, it's around 25% cost share. It is going to be 10% at least for the remainder of this year into next year. It likely will go back to 25% at some point. That's the word on the street, but we shall see. So $47 million for FML-FPP. expected to be announced at the same time, the RFSPP, these acronyms are outrageous. I'm sorry, y'all, I didn't make them up, but I feel responsible for them. It's the Regional Food System Partnership Program, so RFSPP. There's expected to be $10 million announced alongside that. So that is gonna be another 10% cost share, typically 25%. So between FMLFPP and then also the Regional Food System Partnership Program, we got $57 million coming down the pipe. So that's a pretty big deal. Maybe the cost share may be revisited in 2022 and beyond, but 10% for the foreseeable future. Also in DC, the Farm to School Act marker bills have been introduced in the House and the Senate. It was introduced in the Senate last week and then in the House last month, back in May. Both these bills have bipartisan sponsors. What these bills do, essentially, it expands the funding and the programmatic scope of the USDA Farm to School Grant Program. The Farm to School Grant Program has been hugely popular. There's been a lot of reception on both sides of the aisle for that. So I call them marker bills because, again, there's not a lot of rush to get the Farm to School Acts passed in either chamber right now. The hope is that they're going to be rolled into some larger package. And that's to be determined. There's a few other bills that may be rolled in at the same time, but we'll see what comes of that. For anyone who's curious, there's really not a lot of space for grassroots outreach or push on those bills yet. As they're marker bills, they're not expected to move no matter how many people call. But again, we'll keep you posted if they're rolled into something else. Let's see. The USDA just last week put out a call for comments on food system supply chains, basically what works well, what doesn't. The idea being to identify vulnerabilities in food system supply chains and then find where the bottlenecks are, so that if or when there's another pandemic, if or when there's another Suez Canal ship crash, how do we make sure that the food system is stable? I'm skeptical as to how revolutionary the USDA wants to be in terms of changing supply chains at the national and international level, but they're still looking for comments. CFSA, my group, will be putting comments in. The deadline's May 21st. If anyone wants to submit their own comments, I'll be happy to share that link with you. So that's it for the federal level. And then real quick on the state level, there's a lot of COVID relief money still floating around from the American Rescue Plan from a couple months ago. Here at the state level, it's still really just sitting with the Department of Administration. There's a log jam as the governor and the General Assembly are trying to figure out what they can and can't get away with spending the money on. Oh, someone got a question? No, we'll continue. Basically the General Assembly and the governor are all up in arms trying to figure out what the feds will and won't allow them to spend this money on. Until they get some more clear guidance and or threats from the feds, it's just going to sit there. All that said, the word on the street is that the governor is going to reconvene his Accelerate SC panel here in the fairly near future to discuss recommendations on who wants what money and where it should go. So we're having some conversations with the Department of Agriculture and some others to try to figure out what would be a good shopping list in the world of agriculture, what could do well, where this money should go in the world of food systems. The conversation's still ongoing. It looks like infrastructure grants will likely be a big component of that. And then last but not least, the General Assembly, there have been a few developments in terms of individual bills that affect agriculture. Agriculture has not really been a priority in either the House or the Senate so far this year. One bill worth noting, it's kind of a micro effect on farmers. It's S506, it's Senator Kimbrell's bill. It affects the cottage law industry. So for those who don't know, cottage law affects people who want to make and produce and sell food they have in their own home kitchen. There's a very small subset of foods that affects. Right now it's typically baked goods or candied foods. Right now those have to be sold direct to consumer, such as at farmer's market or things like that, or a bake sale. Senator Kimbrell's bill just made crossover last week, so it went from the Senate to the House. His bill opens that up for retail sales. So these cottage producers can now sell, if the bill passes, cottage producers can sell to grocery stores, they can sell to restaurants, farm to table, things like that. There's a few other bills that haven't really moved either. There's about disaster relief for farmers, a hemp bill, things like that. We'll keep you posted if things start to move, but that's essentially it.
Thanks so much, Matt. I am going to go ahead and move along. We're just slightly behind schedule, so I want to make sure that we have enough time for.
My bad. Sorry, y'all.
No. You're fine. We've been lagging a little bit. But that's completely fine. We are going to have a discussion on subcommittee structure now, and so I'm going to turn it over to back over to Nikki to facilitate that discussion.
Hello again. I can make this quick and brief. I'm going to share my screen again. Just noting this is a work in progress. So this is a kind of rough collection of information. During our last large call, we did some breakout groups and asked folks to provide feedback on what they wanted to see as far as subcommittee topics. And so these are basically potential committees. And one of the things that we want to do is really avoid duplication. So if a committee already exists that's really driving forward collaborations and bringing all this information together, then we would like to, as a council, invite them to report out to this larger body and encourage our members to participate in their existing meetings. So what I wanted to do today was just kind of go over some of the key topics that we're seeing as far as the broader food system, and then kind of highlighting where we see some opportunities for existing groups. And I'm hoping that some of you guys can actually answer some questions today. It looks like Ken has stepped off, so I will shoot him a text, but let's go through the existing committees that are out in the world. And if you are a part of or run this committee, please step forward and help me out. So under production, as you all earlier met Ken, he is with the South Carolina Association for Community Economic Development. They also run the Rural Resource Coalition. That coalition operates a local food subcommittee. This is a closed working group as far as I understand. But that is an opportunity if you are engaged in local foods, especially if you're working in rural communities, something that we can ask Ken if that would be open to folks that might want to get engaged. There is currently the South Carolina Food Hub Network is mentioned. I'm the facilitator for that. That is strictly for in production operating food hubs. If you are an aspiring food hub, you're an emerging food hub, feel free to reach out. We do provide some technical assistance, and we do have an application process. There is also, under the category of food waste, Don't Waste Food SC, which from what I understand is run through DHEC. I don't know of any actual meetings that they host, but I was hoping maybe somebody could chime in. If you're also welcome to throw some in the chat if you have a potential lead there. The hot topic though was for consumers. So we currently have several of these groups. And again, my apologies if this is not spelled correctly, but we have Healthy Food Access and Healthcare, which from what I understand is active and open. We have Health and Planning, which was formerly facilitated by DHEC. I think it is now inactive, but there is some interest and capacity. I know Carrie was engaged in this, and this would be something that would happen this fall. And then Phil, if you're still on, I know you were hosting through Eat Smart Move More. There was a South Carolina Food Insecurity Coalition that was hosting meetings. And from what I understand, this is still active and open. And we are not aware of any processing meetups. So these are kind of some key opportunities for engagement, but I also wanted to open the floor if there is an area in which you feel like the South Carolina food policy could really create space for collaboration. Just going over to the chat real quick. Not seeing any additional chats in here about committees. So Phil, are you still on?
No, Phil had to hop off.
Okay. Carrie, do you want to chime in about either of these two top 200 consumers?
Yeah, and Amy can talk about healthy food access and healthcare. There's people on this call who are part of that group, but and Amy's the one that convenes that group out of our SNAP Ed program that's working to make sure that all groups that are interested in doing work around integrating healthy food access into healthcare systems are better coordinated, and then also bringing those folks together to identify state level policy systems and environmental change strategies that could be worked on together in that space. And then health and planning is the group, like it says here, that used to be facilitated by DHEC, and then with some lost funding, they weren't able to continue that, but that's something that I talked to them about reconvening also, you know, as a part of SNAP-Ed programming / South Carolina Food Policy Council work.
Amy, do you want to jump in and talk at all about what type of groups make sense to join the group that you're currently convening, and how often you all are meeting, et cetera?
Sure. So we're a newer work group. We started meeting and we're continuing to expand. We started meeting the beginning of 2021. And right now we are kind of in the process of developing a South Carolina Food as Medicine plan and trying to think through like what would be some, we're trying to think through like what is our purpose and objective, and then think through like what are some recommendations we would like to make, especially related to policy, before we start bringing on others who we think are kind of the key decision makers. So if anyone is interested, I'm with SNAP-Ed, and I can type in my email in the chat box, so you can reach out to me. But we're kind of a new group. We don't have, like Harry mentioned, we're about trying to figure out kind of coordinating, what's going on across the state as it relates to healthy food access in healthcare settings. But we're open to, anyone's recommendations, and trying to think through like, ideally, what would a South Carolina Food as Medicine plan look like in our state? So I'll type in my email, and we meet, right now we're meeting about monthly. That may change, once we kind of start growing, and we may have kind of subcommittees, but yeah, that's sort of our structure for now. Still in the very big planning stages.
Excellent. And I will add that content to the to this document and share this document as well. So, all right, thanks, Amy. Just copy that. And I did see a note from Kate asking about environmental impacts of the food system, with a potential suggestion for adding that to policy and systems change. I also kind of put it as like put a pin in it under production. So, I think right now, I would say environmental impacts, like CFSA does a lot of training around, organics. And I know that Grow Food Carolina Coastal Conservation League are also highly engaged in providing technical assistance and supporting the purchasing of food produced with sustainable practices. But if there are other groups that you all think would be a really good fit for this, please feel free to put them in the chat or email me directly, especially if there's an existing working group that is passionate about this. I know that I think previously Sierra Club was on one of our calls, if that rings any bells for folks. Let's see. Sierra Club. All right, so anyone have any questions about committees, any key issues that you feel like really need a driving organization to bring folks together, that can be convened by the Food Policy Council, or are there any existing groups that you want to add?
I just need a clarifying question. Sorry, I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. So are the subcommittees, it looks like they're all other organizations. So does the Food Policy Council have
Sorry, Miko. Zach, can you mute all other participants? Will it let you do that? All right, Miko, go ahead. It sounded like you were asking clarifying questions about which are operated by the Food Policy Council versus external organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, please. That's correct. All right.
Okay.
Policy Council.
No, so right now there currently are no formal subcommittees. We at one point had a food access task force. We've had committees kind of come and go. The last, I would say, probably 2 years, we've just worked together as a board Our board was really just working on strengthening the organization itself and executing some direct projects. But we're finally at a place, especially with Carrie bringing in staff support with Zach and Ashley, to actually facilitate and reach out to different committees. So at minimum, we want to help you all connect with existing groups, and we want those groups to report out to the full board. But if there's something that's not being addressed by an existing group, we welcome the addition or the creation of a new subcommittee. So is there something, Nico, that you were hoping we could add? And I can make this, again, this was really an internal document. I can make this a little cleaner for everybody else.
Yeah, no worries. No, there's not really anything that you can add. I just was trying to understand, that there were agencies listed in the subcommittees, and then kind of what's been going through my head is do all of our subcommittees and then do we make an attempt to address kind of the poverty situation, really reflecting on Allison's presentation, because our community members who are living in poverty, the way we may need to address any of these subcommittees could be different, like distribution and transportation, right? The way you talk about it for somebody who is not living in policy versus for people who are living in policy. I was just wondering if, as we set up all of our subcommittees, do we have like a carve out, like, okay, well, we've got the transportation, but in transportation, how do we address poverty? How do we address the needs of those who are impoverished in our communities? So that's just something that's just was on my head. I don't know if it should be a separate subcommittee or not, but thank you for allowing me to talk, because I'm drinking from a fire hose.
No, it's really an astute observation. And, we really want this to be something that's created by the members for the members. So if it feels a little bit non-committal, that's somewhat intentional, because we want you all to drive it. So it does sound like poverty is a huge intersection. I know that the Rural Resource Coalition has other subcommittees. I'm not sure if the Office of Rural Health has any committees that address this, or any other folks. I know there's a lot of groups working in the poverty space, but I'm not sure if anyone's convening or if that is a role that the Policy Council could play.
So I can just flag that that I really identify with the drinking out of a fire hose analogy, and that the convening of a statewide anti-hunger coalition is something that had been undertaken by Appleseed and by me. We have a really great core group of advocates, and what we focus on in that conversation is very much federal anti-hunger programming. So we're looking at SNAP, WIC, and the new PEBT benefit that rolled out during the pandemic. So I wouldn't want to encroach on or be redundant with what you guys are doing. I think there's a good understanding of that, the moving pieces with Appleseed and the Food Policy Council, but I would just really hope that that relationship continues to grow like it has, because I think that increased SNAP and WIC participation for South Carolinians can be a really important part about the poverty and food access conversation. So I would just flag that as a conversation that Sarah will continue to facilitate going forward.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, in some cases it may be an organization on their own is the point person and is convening everybody. So it's just a matter of making sure that you're on the calls to kind of share out how other folks can get engaged. Okay, I'll clean all this up and get some feedback from the rest of the team on how we want to convey this in the future and determine kind of what makes sense. I'm seeing a good comment here from Susan. It might be helpful to have a policy advocacy subcommittee to create consistent messaging and build tools that all of us can use to advocate for some of the bills that were mentioned. I know that both South Carolina Appleseed and Eat Smart Move More SC have done some of this, and it has been very helpful. Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the name, so policy should be a key element of that. There actually was, it didn't make it to my final list because we weren't sure how to extricate it separately, but one of the topics that came up as a key interest was actually education. So the role of education in all of these issues. So does it need to be its own committee, or does education get lumped in with outreach and communications? What role does education play? So the goal of today was just to give you guys a snapshot of some of the information that we've seen and some of the hot topics, just get a temperature check, and we'll circle back around to you guys with a more formal request, ask, or proposed structure.
Nikki, this is Florence. Something's really strange is going on. I'm using Dr. Drame's computer because mine is not getting good reception. So if you don't see me, I'm going to shut down mine, but I'm still here. I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thanks, Florence. No worries.
All right.
We've all been there. And then a shout out from Bridget in response to a question regarding joining the anti-hunger conversation. Some specific emails for Bridget and Sarah, so you all can connect directly if that's an area of passion. Because these groups are members, bless you, Susan. I didn't hear you, don't worry. I just happened to be looking at you when you sneezed. Yeah, so, again, I think this is an evolving topic for us to determine the best way to serve you all. And like, to your point previously about Appleseed, the goal here is to not be redundant. So we want to make sure we build out our committee structures in a way that's complementary to the existing work of our members. All right, so last comment here. I really appreciate Miko's point and think it would be critical for us to center all of our committee's efforts around the experiences of people and communities that are low income or have limited access to healthy food and resources. Yeah, I think that's key. I think it's actually enough of a point that we should be thinking about how do we integrate that into our mission statement or some other element of our organization. Zach, I'm assuming we're able to save the chats from this.
Yes, the chats are saved.
Cool.
And it looks like Guillermo has his hand raised as well.
Yes, I do. I hope I don't take too much time from you all. You hear me well?
Go for it.
All right. I'm a new board member, and long story short, I help run a networking organization for Hispanic community members in the Midlands area. And I got into the food insecurity game through COVID, and I'm trying to establish a food delivery program for low-income Hispanic community members. And here's the kicker: a lot of them are undocumented. So I know this isn't the main mission of this group, right? But talking about intersectionality, talking about how to address low-income community members of all types, right? I think it's something to keep in mind. So I'm particularly interested in the food insecurity group and how to join it. But I kind of want to add that little addendum to the conversation that was happening right now. And I can see there's similar problems that maybe we can address in a more holistic way for all types of people in the state. So if there's more information about that, I'd like to learn it. If there's groups that deal with that topic, I'd like to join them and maybe try to advocate for that. So happy to be here and happy to help in other ways that I can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Guillermo. That's really helpful. Also, you already got a juicy little nugget in the chat here that WIC is available to families regardless of citizen status. Oh my gosh, end of day. FYI. Yeah, I think there's huge opportunities, and a big reason why we're really excited about expanding the board is because we really want this council to bring in as many perspectives as possible that really reflect who's living and working in South Carolina. So I've got one more hand up. What's my end time here, Zach? Am I 2:30?
Yes, we're shooting for 2:30.
Okay. So Lamin or Florence.
Oh, it's me. That's what I was saying. He's not here. So
Okay.
I just wanted to really commend. I was really excited about the report on food is medicine. We here at South Carolina State, we do a series called Eat Well, Live Well, and we connect food to all types of health issues. And we also have a a program called BFIT, B and then FIT here, and I'm part of that program, and it's a program that connects South Carolina State, Claflin, and the Regional Health Center. And my section was connecting food to fitness, and then of course to health. So I'm really excited about that, and I'd like to know more about that. I also go to churches to present how your food can be your greatest friend or your greatest enemy. So I'm really excited. Of course, food insecurity has been the staple for what I do with students here. We need to also include students as part of the food insecurity during the pandemic. Sorry, that's not my phone. Okay, during the pandemic, Phil, Ashley, and a host of other community members helped me to provide food to some of the students who were here during the pandemic that couldn't go anywhere. Even at many HBCUs, food insecurity is still a big problem. So we need to put that in mind as we look at that holistic view of food insecurity. Thank you.
Excellent, Florence. That's really a key point there when thinking about, really focusing in on specialized populations, and students are a key component of that. So I'm seeing some good conversation in chat. And I think that kind of next steps for the committees, I'm going to compile some of this information. I'm going to double check in with folks to make sure what is open and how to access this information. So if you want to join an existing committee, we can share that out. And then I'll circle back around to the full board members, but I'm tempted to maybe put out a survey and just kind of get people to indicate their interest, indicate what they think is the priority, and see if we can get some additional consensus. Although I would say just from this call alone, food insecurity is a hot topic. And I am seeing another comment here. Let's see. My partner and I seek community feedback as we develop our business plan. There is a survey from Kate. Kate, do you want to talk about that real quick?
Hi, everybody. I just got back from grocery shopping, so that's why my video has been off. But my partner and I are participating in the Feeding Innovation Program with the South Carolina Community Loan Fund. And so we have the opportunity to pitch our business plan further on, and I guess it's at the beginning of June. And there's several other community activists, leaders, entrepreneurs that I've shared the wonderful resource with, the food map. So thank you so much for that. But we are looking for community input from around South Carolina. And I've been participating in food council policy meetings up in DC. I'm really happy to have found this here down in South Carolina. So any input in terms of consumers, potential collaborators down the line, that's what that feedback will give us some input on. I'll just add that I am a school teacher, took a personal day today. COVID is, really affecting all of us here. So I'm happy to take a day of rest myself so that I could join in today. But I teach at the high school level. Next year I'll be at the elementary level. So school gardening is also on my radar, and just happy to have been able to sit in today. So thank you so much for all of what you're doing.
Thanks, Kate. And we wish you best of luck on your business pitch. So folks, she did share a link if you want to provide any input for her. Mandolin provided a recommendation for a book if you're interested in this topic, that is Food Poverty, Insecurity, and Sovereignty in the Americas. So nice reading list ad there at the very end. I'm going to open the floor for any last questions or comments for the group. So anything else you guys want to share, events coming up, resources needed, you're writing a grant, you need a letter of support, tell us what it is, let us know how we can support you. Open the floor. So feel free to use your hand raising icon or just jump in here. So popcorn style.
Hey, I'll jump in quick. I don't know if an agenda was shared or I missed it, but I'm wondering, how do we sign up for that?
Sign up for what? I'm so sorry.
That I never got an agenda for this meeting, so I'm wondering if I
yeah.
missed it or if there's something we need to sign up for that as a new board member.
Yeah, you will start getting them from now on.
Okay.
So Carrie sent it out before the board meeting, but it was just sent to the existing board members. So moving forward, we'll make sure everyone has an agenda. And as you can tell, it's the Wild West anyways. So I'm terrible about staying on agenda. Thank you, Melinda, for the nice comments. Please let me know if I can be of any help for any of you, especially as it relates to data needs. Got some data support offering up here, which is always really powerful when we're making funding requests. Anybody else want to pop in, ask a question?
Nikki, will the information on the chat be saved and shared? Because
yeah,
I kind of lost mine. I can't access Dr. Drame's one.
Yeah, Zach's got our back.
Sure. And he said he will be, there is a form that he needs to complete so that it's 1890 and will be connected to the Food Policy Council. So I'm relaying that message. So you'll be getting something from him. And so that myself and then the 1890 arm will be kind of connected.
Excellent.
This is Zach King from Blue Cross Blue Shield. I wanted to mention that I really appreciated the committee structure conversation today. We've been participating on the food as medicine planning work, and I think there's just, you know, we could spend all day going to every meeting, I feel like, around food insecurity, the intersection with health. And so I really think having opportunities for these working groups and kind of peripheral committees to be able to share with this group of leaders in this work, I think will be really exciting. And hopefully we will be able to learn a lot too. So thank you all for taking the time to talk shop a little bit and figure out some structured work. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the positive feedback, Zach. It feels a little bit behind the scenes how the sausage is made, but that's what we're here for. We all love some good local sausage.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments before we close out? Other questions?
Last plug-in. I am writing I'm writing a book with someone else. I'm co-authoring it, but it's all based on intersection between plants, health, and our environment, society at large. So it should be out in the summer, so I'll share that information. I think it's a good read for everyone to read. So that's just a little plug-in.
Nice. Yeah, we're all game for more resources. And again, let us know if we can be of support in adding citations or data or any kind of South Carolina case studies.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Florence. All right. Well, I'm going to close it out unless I get any last hands raised, any screens popping up.
Just a quick one. I love a summary of new board members and current board members. If that's in the agenda or some a list like that, I just like to know who I'm collaborating with and what you all are up to, because it just makes my network better.
It's top secret. Yeah,
I mean, I'm part of the group now.
Yeah, I think we were going to try and do a press release. But I think it'd be nice to have an internal document that has hyperlinks to everybody's LinkedIn and who knows, Instagram, whatever lights your fire. So we can all get better connected. I think it would be good just to have a broader membership list in general so folks can know who's who and how to connect afterwards. So thanks.
And I do think I thought that we do have that, and that was something that we asked when people filled out the membership form, if they were okay with that information being shared more broadly or not.
Okay.
Zach, do you know what's the latest on getting a list together?
Yeah, we do have a list. It is available for those of you that recently joined. You may not have received an email with that information on it, but I will send it out on the next email. It's just a Google Doc that anybody with the link can access. So it's available to the public, but not advertised.
Excellent. All right, y'all, we're going to try and end right on the dot. So thank you all for your time. And we got some shout outs at the last minute in the chats here. Again, we're looking forward to continuing to grow in this network with you all and making sure that it's serving your needs. So never hesitate to reach out and let us know how we can improve or support what you're doing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see all of you sometime before the end of the year in person.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good to see you all. Bye.